doing it the keto way. Today we're going to make Oyster Rockefellers. But since I'm going to put a twist on it, it's going to be called AJ Rockefellers. So let's get started. Let's take a look at the oysters that we're going to use to make this dish. Okay, so the oysters we're using here, as you can see, we have a half a dozen of wild-caught oysters, Gulf oysters. We have the Atlantic Blue Point oysters, and we also have this one here called Moon Dancer oysters. So these are the Moon Dancers are farm raised, the Atlantic Blue Point oysters are farm raised, but the Gulf oysters are wild caught. So let's take a look at them in here and see what they look like. Okay, so here's the oysters. This is what they look like. This guy here is no good. This one is what I'm doing is I'm looking at them to make sure that they haven't opened. Anyone that's open is not any good anymore, so you got to make sure that they're still closed. And you also have to wash them. So I'm just checking them out and separating them as I go for the ones that we can actually use from the ones that open on its own. So far I've only found one that's open. Now let's see. Let me check them all. Okay, so now that we've done that, this is the only one. As you can see here, can you see how it's open right there? You see that? That oyster we cannot use because the shell is supposed to be completely closed. And by it being open like that, this oyster is dead. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to wash and clean our oysters. Okay, so basically what I do is I just take it one at a time, wash it off, rinse it off really good, and put it in the pan. Each and every one of them the same way. Make sure we get all the loose dirt off of them. And that's good. Wash and clean them. Wash each one. Wash and clean each one. Yeah. There we go. Wash that way. So, as you wash them, you'll see the dirt come off of them. So, get the dirt off of them. This one got, I guess that's what they call the beard. Look at that. Ugh. I don't know what that is. I'm gonna use this and scrape it a little bit. There we go, scrape all that off of there. Oh, by the way, this is an oyster knife. You will need this to open these little guys because without this, it's going to be hard to get into this. Okay, that's pretty good because we're only going to eat what's inside the shell and not the shell. So. Watch that one. That looks good. Alright. That looks good. That looks good. Alright. Alright, now that that's done, the next thing to do is get these suckers open. Okay, so when you open an oyster, what you want to do is use a towel or something to actually hold it. And it's actually going to actually protect yourself also. People usually use a glove, but since I don't have an oyster shucking glove, I just hold it with the towel. And you want to go right here where the hinge is at. Put it in there and twist. There you go. Did you hear that pop? When it pops open like that, you just did it. Now, what we need to do is go around the sides and cut through the meat that's in there at the top. And look there. There's your oyster. See that? See how pretty that sucker looks? There you go. And we're going to do that to the next one. This way is a different oyster. This is one of those Blue Mountain oysters, but the same concept. What you want to do is you want to look for the small end where it's hinged closed. Wrap it with your towel, hold it down, put it in there, pop it open. Cut the meat loose. Oh, this shell broke. The rest of the meat is in here, but we're still going to use it. What we're going to do is we're going to transplant it to a different shell. We're going to use this shell because it's not okay. How about that? Put it in there. These go in the garbage. Alright, and so we're going to continue to open these oysters. At least I am going to continue to open these oysters. And once I get them all open, we'll move on to the next step, which is there we go. Nice. Go on to the next one. Okay, so as you can see, we're moving on and we're going to continue to open these oysters. Once we have them all open, then we're going to come back and we're going to finish making the rest of the recipe so that we can make the Oyster Rockefellers. Okay, so you see that's how you open an oyster, using one of these oyster knives. And I'm going to continue to open all the rest of these oysters, and once I'm done with that, we'll be back and we'll go ahead and move on to the next step of making the ingredients for the Oyster Rockefellers, okay? Alright. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so now you see I have all the oysters already opened, and once they're open like this, this is basically what you call oysters on a half shell. Now what I'm going to do with these now is prepare the rest of the ingredients so that we can turn these into Oyster Rockefellers. So mise en place. Mise en place, what that means is French word for everything in its place. So what we have to do now is start prepping all of our other ingredients, the shallots, the garlic, the spinach, which spinach is a big part of making the Oyster Rockefellers. You make a cream sauce with the spinach, which that's what we're about to do right now. And so let's get started with the spinach cream sauce. Okay, this is going to be so easy. that we have such simple ingredients. We basically have about 5 ingredients total that we're going to use to make this dish. So I'm going to show you what those ingredients are. We're going to prep them, get it ready, and then we're going to go ahead and put it all together. Okay, like I was saying, here's what we're going to use. All we need is cheese, shredded cheese, some green onions. I have a red onion, garlic. I have some cilantro for finishing, just to give it a little flavor, a finishing touch with the cilantro. And basically I would actually use fresh spinach. It's great to use fresh spinach because it wilts down very quickly. But today we're just actually going to use the frozen chopped spinach in its place, which makes a great substitute. Let me go over here. And last but not least, the last thing you'll need is some half and half. And basically what the half and half is going to do is going to make this into a cream spinach, so that we have this cream spinach with all these different flavors in there, and then they're going to top the oysters, and then we're going to put it in the oven and bake it, and I'll let you see how those steps are done. So as you see, very simple ingredients, a little half and half to make the cream spinach, and let's get started. Okay, so what we got going on here is we got the spinach already in the pan. And what I'm doing right now is I'm mixing the chopped red onions with the spinach. Usually I'll cook down the onions first and then I'll put the spinach in there. But I'm trying a new experiment. Since this spinach was frozen, I think that it's going to be okay for me to put these onions in right now and let them kind of cook together. And so that was my thought. So we're going to actually see how well this actually turns out, because I don't think there should be anything wrong with it by putting it in there now, because it actually gives it a chance to cook the onions while the spinach kind of thaws out, because we already know it was frozen. So let's see how this turns out, okay? I'll be back to check on this. Right now I got to chop up some garlic and some green onions, get that prepped and ready to go. And once I have the garlic and green onions prepped and ready to go, we'll come back, start putting this together, put the cream in there, make a cream sauce, and then we'll start putting together the rest of the oysters. Okay, so as you can see here, what I have right now is my spinach. It's cooked down. You see all the liquids are going out of there? Basically the water that was in there. And what I've done is I've already added the garlic and the onions. So the onions and the garlic is in there. Also I added some green chives in there. Put a little seasoning in there with a little salt and pepper just to season it up for now. Because what we're about to do right now is we're going to go ahead and add the half and half to make it creamy. Make the spinach cream sauce. So here we go. And then what we'll do after we add the cream, we'll then season it to taste based on how much cream we actually use. So let's go ahead and put that in there. Let's get that a stir. See how much we're going to need. Looks pretty good. I don't think we really need more than this, because I don't want it to be too soggy when we actually put it on the oysters. So just so you know, there's the oysters right there. You see them? They're waiting for this. So let's get this up and running. And once I have this cooked to the texture that I like it, seasoned to where I want it to be seasoned, we're going to then start assembling and putting it onto the oysters. Cheese, breadcrumbs, get all that fun stuff into the oven, and it'll be ready to go. Alright, so I have the spinach, the cream spinach, made and seasoned to my perfection, to the way I like it. And so what I'm about to do right now is start the assembly process of assembling the Oysters Rockefellers. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take and spoon the spinach, cream cheese spinach mixture onto each of these oysters. Let's take our time and do each one of them. Just like that. Let's take our time. Put them on each one. There we go. How much you put on there is typically basically up to you, how much you want to put on there. But I'm going to cover each and every one of these, and then I'm going to come back if I have extra and put the rest of it on there if I can get the rest of it in there. Like this one here is a little large, so I'm going to put just a little bit more in there. Let's do this one. Just like that. Okay. Poor little guy, he's so little in there. But he still gets some. And if you notice, I'm using this aluminum pan. And the reason why I'm using this aluminum pan is because I'm going to put cheese in here. And when that cheese melts, it's going to be stuck to the bottom of the pan. And so instead of having to do a lot of cleaning, extra dishes, I can just dispose of the aluminum pan and get rid of it. And that way I don't have to worry about trying to get this baked on cheese out of the actual pan when it's done. So that's the great thing about these disposable aluminum pans, and I would recommend that you do use the disposable aluminum pan because that allows you for easy cleanup.
Won't you get inside? Feel how the love. Okay.
Alright, so we're just about done here.
She looks good. How would you like those?
There we go. And each one is covered nicely. But I do have a little bit of mixture, just a little bit left. So I'm just going to look at the ones that I think may need a little touch up. Scrape this pan down. Alright. Add a little bit more of this one. A little bit to this one. Don't really need that much. A little bit to this one. That's good. I think they're okay. Yeah, okay. So that should do it. Next thing we'll do is go ahead and put our cheese and breadcrumbs on top of that. Top that with some cheese. That's at each and every one of them. Get cheese on top. Okay, so as you can see, these are now pretty much covered with cheese, and they look pretty good for after eating, though they haven't even been cooked yet. So we're gonna add the cheese. Look at this one. And then on top of that goes the breadcrumbs. I guess using a spoon is the best way to get these breadcrumbs on here, which is what I'm going to do, is use a spoon and just spoon them on like that. I'm not too much worried about pressing it down because I know once the cheese melts, it's going to melt into the cheese and it should be fine. Let's hit each and every one of them. Breadcrumbs. Okay, so we have that done, and as you can see, each and every one of them is covered with cheese and breadcrumbs. And if you notice here, my oven is already preheated to 350 degrees. You see that? Alright, so it's already 350 degrees preheated, ready to go. So basically all I have to do now is go ahead and get these into the oven. And once these are in the oven, I'm going to cook them for about anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes until the cheese is melted. The breadcrumbs are nice and brown and crunchy, and it'll be time to take them out and we will sample them and eat them. Yes, that's the best part. Okay, so I've taken the oysters out of the oven and I'm going to let you look at what the final product looks like. Okay, so let's take a look at it together. Okay, so this is what the oysters look like out of the oven. Now I'm about to plate them so you can actually see a very, very good clear shot of what they look like on the plate. Okay, so here's the finished product. Oysters Rockefellers. With my little twist on it, I call it Oysters AJ. So you make these and I guarantee you would love oysters. Even if you're that type of person that don't like eating oysters or don't like oysters at all, once you try these, I guarantee you, you will change your mind about eating oysters. Okay, so make yourself a dozen of Oyster Rockefellers and enjoy. Thank you.